They say every life begins with breath, but yours began with a sentence written in light. Long before your first heartbeat, before the sound of your name ever touched human ears, something was recorded, a line that only the universe could read. And tonight, that line has started to glow again. The screen of the world seems ordinary, cars moving, clocks ticking, people scrolling, but behind it all, something ancient stirs. A page turns in a place that has no walls, and a whisper rises from it, now. You feel it before you hear it. A pulse behind your ribs, steady and insistent. It isn't anxiety, it's recognition. You wake from half-sleep, not sure why, and the room feels different. The air hums. You reach for your phone, but the glow from the window stops you. It's not streetlight, it's softer, golden, almost breathing. A dream you once had drifts back, a vast library with no ceiling, shelves stretching into mist. You stood there, unable to read the titles, but one book called to you. Its cover shimmered every time you thought about hope. You never understood that dream, until now. Outside, the city sleeps. Inside, your heartbeat sounds like footsteps walking toward an unopened door. You whisper, "What's happening?" The whisper that answers isn't loud, it feels internal, like memory returning, you're being reminded. You sit up, blinking into the soft light spilling across the floor. The air carries the scent of rain though the sky is dry. Something invisible has opened, and with it comes an image in your mind, a page unfolding, words appearing one by one. They aren't commands or predictions. They're descriptions of moments that shaped you, the time you chose honesty over convenience, the day you forgave someone who didn't ask, the instant you decided to keep going when quitting looked easier. Each event glows faintly on that imagined page, connected by a single thread, endurance. You realize then that destiny isn't a script you're forced to perform. It's a record of choices that reveal who you are. The universe didn't write control into your story, it wrote potential. And every time you acted with courage, a new line appeared in that book of light. The glow in your room brightened slightly, not blinding, just warm, as if responding to recognition. You whisper again, half laughing, half trembling, "So it's real?" The answer comes through feeling rather than sound. What's written can't be erased, only expanded. A calm settles over you. The ache that lived behind your lungs for months loosens. You understand that the revelation isn't about seeing the future, it's about remembering your design. What was written before your birth isn't a prediction, it's a promise that you were meant to bring certain colors into the world: patience, kindness, resilience, quiet strength. You see flashes of them now in memory, moments when you doubted yourself yet still showed up. Each one a line in that eternal script. The light begins to fade back into ordinary darkness, leaving a hush so full it feels alive. You exhale, long and slow, and whisper the only words that fit, "I remember." Outside, dawn edges across the horizon. Somewhere, unseen pages close with a gentle sound, and the same sentence that began your existence echoes once more, "Still becoming." You turn toward the window, smile at the new day, and feel the quiet certainty that the story is not being rewritten, it's being continued. The day passes quietly, yet everything inside it seems charged. Each ordinary sound, doors closing, voices in the distance, rain beginning against the window, feels like punctuation in a sentence you can't see. You move through routine tasks with the strange awareness that you're being guided, not by command but by rhythm. By evening the clouds have cleared, and twilight paints the room in violet tones. You sit at your desk, still thinking about the dream of the library, about the unseen book that carried your story before you arrived. The glow from your laptop flickers once, and for an instant a shape appears on the screen, faint lines that resemble handwriting, vanishing before you can focus. You lean forward, whispering, "I'm listening." The air cools, and a page seems to turn somewhere behind the silence. The voice you heard last night, more sensation than sound, returns. Every life writes itself in two inks, one of choices, one of intention. You are reading the place where they meet. You close your eyes. Behind your eyelids the library appears again, endless aisles of light, a table in the center, and the same book resting open. Only now you're not watching from a distance, you're standing over it. The pages shift as if stirred by wind, and you see words forming. They're not commands or prophecies. They're memories written as energy, your laughter, your acts of mercy, the moments you stayed when walking away would have been easier. Each line glows briefly, then settles into the page. You ask the only question that makes sense: why show me this now? The answer unfurls slowly. Because people forget that their stories are alive. They think destiny is decided for them, but destiny grows with every act of choice. Every time you choose patience over anger, a new sentence appears. You open your eyes. The room is dark except for the faint shimmer of the streetlights, but the feeling remains. You realize that the book isn't somewhere far away, it's a metaphor for the invisible continuity that links every decision, every kindness, every moment of forgiveness. The revelation isn't that your path was predestined, it's that you've been co-author all along. You sit back and breathe. The scent of rain still lingers even though the air is dry. You glance at your reflection in the window. It looks steady, almost luminous. You whisper, "Then the next page is mine to write." Somewhere beyond the noise of the city, you imagine the sound of a quill touching paper, the faint scratch marking the beginning of a new paragraph. The voice comes one last time, soft and sure. What was written before your birth was hope. What you add now is proof. You smile. The lights of passing cars streak across the glass, briefly illuminating your face before fading into night. The story continues, and this time, you know you are holding the pen. The night stretched out in silence, yet it didn't feel empty anymore. It felt alive, expectant, as if the air itself was waiting for you to move. You sat at your desk, staring at the blank page of your journal. The pen trembled slightly in your hand, not from fear, but from recognition. You understood, in a way that words could hardly hold, that every decision you made from this point forward would become ink in that unseen book. The idea didn't burden you, it freed you. For the first time, your life didn't feel like something happening to you, it felt like something being written through you. You thought about how many times you had paused before doing what you really wanted, how often you'd hidden your own voice for the comfort of others, and how quietly you'd buried entire chapters that were meant to be told. You could almost see those unwritten pages, waiting. A slow breath left your chest, and the thought came clear as daylight: if the story is still being written, I can still change the tone. The wind outside shifted, the faint hum of the city dimmed, and the same inner voice that had guided you before returned, gentle, never demanding, then right. You lowered the pen and began. The words didn't form sentences at first. They came as small confessions, fragments of memory, apologies to yourself for the years you spent doubting your own worth, thank yous for every version of you that kept standing. The ink absorbed it all like soil drinking rain. Hours passed without you noticing. The candle beside you burned low, the wax pooling around its base. Yet the deeper you wrote, the lighter you became. Every word felt like releasing another weight you didn't realize you carried. By the time you stopped, the notebook's once blank pages shimmered faintly in the candlelight, as if each line still glowed with the emotion that birthed it. You leaned back, your hand aching pleasantly, and whispered, "It's strange, isn't it? How something so small can make the whole world feel new." You glanced toward the window. Beyond the glass, the city's lights looked softer, their reflections stretching like veins of gold across the wet streets. Somewhere inside, you knew that if you could see far enough, all those lights would connect, each one a human story still being written. And then something subtle happened. The room cooled, the air shifting the way it does before a summer storm. You felt that same pulse in your chest, and with it came the impression of movement, pages turning, far away but familiar. You closed your eyes, and there it was again, the library of light. Shelves that reached upward until they vanished into stars. You walked between them barefoot, the ground humming beneath you. Each book you passed whispered faintly, and when you brushed your fingers across their spines, flashes of lives filled your mind, faces of people you'd never met, acts of kindness, choices made in secret courage. It hit you with the force of clarity. Every life was a book in this place, and they all wrote together. No story stood alone. You stopped at one shelf glowing more brightly than the rest. There it was, your book. You opened it to the middle, and instead of words, you saw scenes. Moments from your life shimmered like film on water. The time you stayed up comforting a friend who'd lost everything. The day you forgave the one who betrayed you. The quiet mornings you spent rebuilding yourself when no one was watching. Each scene flickered once, then folded itself into light. You turned to the last written page, and it was blank except for one sentence written in soft gold, "Continue as you are." You traced the letters with your fingertip. They felt warm, alive, as if pulsing with your heartbeat. And suddenly, understanding bloomed. This wasn't a command, it was an invitation. Heaven wasn't dictating your life, it was echoing your own becoming. You looked up and saw 1,000 other books flicker in response. The library itself was breathing, alive with the choices of countless souls. You realized then that no one story was truly isolated, every act of courage lit up something in another's pages. You smiled through tears, whispering, "So this is how the world heals itself." When you opened your eyes again, you were back at your desk. The candle had burned out, and dawn was bleeding through the curtains. The journal in front of you was still there, the ink dry, your words exactly as you'd written them. Yet, just for a moment, when you tilted the page toward the light, the faintest shimmer ran across the letters, like gold dust. You knew what it meant. Every honest word, every brave choice, every gesture of love was being recorded, not in judgment, but in remembrance. That's what "written before you were born" truly meant, not a fixed fate, but a promise that your capacity for light would always find its way onto the page. You closed the journal, pressing your hand over the cover as if sealing a contract. "I understand now," you whispered. "I'm not waiting to be written about. I'm writing." The words hung in the air like a vow. The new day called from beyond the window. You rose, stretching, feeling the quiet hum of life synchronizing again, the sound of a pen scratching somewhere unseen, the rhythm of millions of hearts adding their chapters to the book of light. You smiled, knowing yours had joined them. The next few days unfolded as though someone had quietly adjusted the world's focus. Colors looked deeper, time moved slower, and silence carried a strange sweetness. You noticed the way sunlight curved across your walls and the faint rhythm of footsteps echoing from the street below. It felt as though you were walking through the same life but on a slightly higher frequency. Nothing external had changed, yet everything responded differently, like the story itself had become aware that you were finally aware of it. Each morning began with the same ritual: coffee, window, breath. You'd pause and feel that gentle hum beneath your ribs, the same pulse that had awakened you on the first night. It no longer startled you, it felt like companionship. Sometimes you'd catch yourself smiling for no reason at all, and you'd whisper, "Still becoming." The phrase had turned into a quiet mantra, a way of keeping the connection alive between the visible and the unseen. People noticed the difference before you said a word. Conversations grew warmer. Strangers held eye contact longer, sensing something they couldn't name. You realized the light wasn't just something you had seen, it was something you now carried. And without trying, you began to write with it, not on paper, but in the way you moved through the world. One afternoon, while walking home through the fading gold of evening, you stopped by a small bookstore tucked between two buildings. Its sign had faded, its window filled with dust-coated spines, but something about it called to you. Inside, the air smelled of paper and time. You wandered between shelves until you found a single book lying open on a reading table, blank except for a few faint lines of gold script across the first page. You leaned closer. It read, "The writer remembers what the reader has forgotten." Every time you choose kindness, another sentence appears. You smiled. It wasn't surprise that filled you, it was recognition. The same current that had spoken through dreams now hummed through that page, bridging worlds again. You touched the corner of the paper and whispered, then let it continue. The shopkeeper, an older woman with eyes that seemed too knowing, appeared beside you. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said softly. "That book's been blank for years. You're the first to see the words." She smiled as if this sort of thing happened often. You nodded, unable to explain the feeling building in your chest, a blend of gratitude and inevitability. You closed the book gently, paid for it, and left with it tucked under your arm. That night you placed it beside your bed, next to your journal. You didn't open it again, you didn't need to. You understood that the story was now self-writing, adding a line every time you lived something honest. You fell asleep easily, the air around you warm and faintly luminous, as though the pages were glowing in the dark. In the dream that followed, the library returned, but now it looked different. The endless shelves still stretched upward, but light flowed through them like rivers. People walked quietly among the books, each carrying their own faint glow. You watched them, realizing that these were all living souls, each one holding the record of their becoming. None of them looked lost. They were all reading and writing at once. You saw your book resting on a pedestal nearby. It was no longer blank. Every page shimmered with light that moved, as if written by breath itself. You opened it to the most recent entry. The words were simple. The one who reads has remembered. The one who writes has begun. You touched the page, and the letters scattered upward like sparks before dissolving into air. A calm filled you that words can't capture, the calm of knowing you didn't have to chase meaning anymore. You were part of it. When you woke, dawn was spilling over the horizon. The book from the shop still sat beside you, and for an instant, just as your eyes focused, you thought you saw light seeping from its spine. Then it faded, leaving only the quiet scent of paper and the morning breeze. You laughed softly and whispered, "All right, I'll keep writing." You spent that day doing small things, watering plants, replying to messages, listening instead of talking. Yet every gesture carried a weight that felt like purpose. You realized that revelation had not changed your circumstances, it had changed your attention. And that was everything. By evening, when the sun dipped low and the sky turned the color of amber glass, you stood by the window once more. You felt that pulse again, that signature of connection, and spoke aloud, not to the air, but to everything listening. If this story reaches anyone, let it remind them that they are already written in light. Their story is not ending. It's unfolding. The wind rose slightly, brushing against the curtains as if answering. You closed your eyes and breathed the sound in. For a long while you simply stood there, peaceful, the world beyond your window alive with quiet movement. And in that stillness, you understood the truest revelation of all. What had been written before your birth was never a rulebook, it was a heartbeat. It was the promise that your existence itself was proof of light learning to take form. You smiled. Somewhere in that infinite library, a page turned, a new line appeared, and your name glowed softly at the margin. Night settles once more, calm and wide. You stand at the window, feeling the hush that follows understanding. The world outside glows faintly, and for a moment you sense every heartbeat moving in rhythm with your own. You whisper, "Still becoming," and the words drift into the quiet like a promise. Somewhere unseen, a final page turns and a single line writes itself in light. The story continues every time you choose to love. You smile. That's enough.